Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Poetry Thursday, little BookTube event that some of the cooler BookTubers do, where they read you poetry on Thursday. Most Poetry Thursday BookTubers bounce around. I am not. I am making a psychodrama out of this whole event, so I am reading my way through one anthology, 20th Century American Poetry. I cannot guarantee that we are going to read all of this thing, because I have a feeling that after a very little while, in just a few weeks, this is going to become one earth-scorching rant after another. And who wants to see that? And right away, in my mind's eye, I could see 1,000 hands going up. So maybe you're all waiting for that. But we're not there yet. We still have one major poet to do before the whole thing goes to hell in a handbasket. But not today. Today we have a minor poet to do. I've mentioned before, we have an anthology like this, especially with a number of people doing the editing. You're going to have all sorts of debts to pay. You're going to have teachers to doff your hat to, or schools that you want to acknowledge, or a poem that's stuck in the back of your mind that you definitely want to include. And if you're an editor doing a huge amount of work to bring together a big anthology like this, you get a certain amount of that leeway. You certainly do. And that's what happens in this next one here. The poet is Margaret Walker, and the editors include one poem of hers. We'll read it because we're just making our way through this book. The only things in this book that I have not read, has been only, I think, 2 exceptions, has been when a poet writes in Negro dialect. And I don't disdain that, but there is absolutely no way that I am going to read a poem in a Negro dialect on a public forum. So I've left those out. Fortunately, the poems in question have had little or no artistic value, so it wasn't much of a miss. But this thing is from 1970, and it also has little to vanishing artistic merit. The poem is called For Malcolm X. And there's a footnote saying who Malcolm X was, but I am assuming you know who Malcolm X is. And this is the poem. All you violated ones with gentle hearts, you violent dreamers whose cries shout heartbreak, whose voices echo clamors of our cool capers, and whose black faces have hollowed pits for eyes. All you gambling sons and hooked children and Bowery bums, hating white devils and black bourgeoisie, thumbing your noses at your burning red suns, gather round this coffin and mourn your dying swan. Snow-white Moslem headdress around a dead black face. Beautiful were your sandpapering words against our skins. Our blood and water pour from your flowing wounds. You have cut open our hearts and dug scalpels into our brains. When and where will another come to take your holy place? Old man mumbling in his dotage, or crying child, unseen, unborn? That is for Malcolm X. It's the conceit of the poem is that you are gathering around the coffin of this fallen civil rights leader, a very different kind of civil rights leader from Martin Luther King Jr., a militant civil rights leader, who believed that black equality would have to be taken because it would never be given. And this isn't good. I mean, this is silly, melodramatic, posturing verse. It's not really formally much of a poem, and it's very easy. It's very simple. You're sandpapering words against our skin, a scalpel in our brain. Those are very easy images. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what Malcolm X would have thought about being called a swan, but it's also, it's just plopped in here. It's not carefully curated either. For Malcolm X is the title of the poem, and Malcolm X gets a footnote. But that bit about our blood and water pour from your flowing wounds, that doesn't get a footnote. And it's a direct allusion to the New Testament, where when Jesus' side is pierced by a spear, blood and water pour out. Or in some translations and in some instances, just water pours out. A Christ figure, in other words. And that ties in with where and when will another come to take your holy place. Or a whole bunch of people in the Jim Crow South who would have said that Malcolm X did not have a holy place. And the question raises, it rages today. Which vision is it? Must you argue for the better angels of people's nature, argue for the content of their character, persuade them as a pulpit preacher like Martin Luther King did? Or must you demand what you get and say, I will not be ignored. I want what is mine. We were brought here involuntarily to this country, and we have been treated like chattel ever since, and we demand our due. We demand justice. According to your own laws, we demand our justice. That is split down the civil rights movement still today, and you can see why, right? Because civil rights are being rolled back in this country. But that is not footnoted. So the readers, it feels like this thing is just plopped in here, either because someone owes a debt to Margaret Walker. Margaret Walker, I don't remember exactly when she died, but she would have overlapped with at least one of these editors, maybe all of them. Was one of them a student? Did one of them want her to be in here? I don't know. But she's in here anyway, and they only give her the one poem. And that is our poem for today. Not exactly a high point, and I'm afraid we don't have much better to look forward to next time. So maybe you do all want an endless stream of rants. I'll wrap this up, and we'll convene again next week. Thank you, BookTube.